In this video, I'm going to teach women how to pose to look taller and leaner. The first rule of posing is that anything that's closer to the camera is going to look bigger, but anything that's away from the camera is going to look smaller. Hi, my name's MR.DASANTE. I'm an award-winning fashion content creator who teaches men and women how to pose for photos. Today, I'm with the lovely Irina, who has a lovely fashion style, and I'm gonna be teaching her and using her as demonstration on how to look taller and leaner for your photos. So this topic comes in handy for people who want to emphasize their body parts and also de-emphasize whichever body part they want to de-emphasize, if you know what I mean. For example, when it comes to the hips, some people may have big hips, and so in some of their photos they may want to de-emphasize, and some people with smaller hips may want to emphasize. So it's really about the angle, guys. So when it comes to subjects, if they want to de-emphasize something, they just need to move it away from the camera, and if they want to emphasize something, then they move it closer to the camera. For example, a lot of the times I would suggest you need to shift your weight onto your back hip, yeah? So like this. So Irina, just copy me. So like this. And sometimes it's good to be at an angle as well. So diagonally. So then it makes you look leaner, because sometimes when you're standing, for example, stand like this with me, like this, it just makes us look wider. So if you want to look tall and leaner, sometimes it's good to go at an angle, maybe like 45 degrees, and then, you know, shift one way like this. So then you look slimmer. So the leg in front, for example, it should be like this, diagonally, like Irina. You're doing it right. So she's doing it right. So then, like I said, you're gonna look more leaner, which is the aim in this video. The next thing when it comes to posing is that sometimes people are very awkward with their hands. And so if you look at Irina right now, she has pockets, which is a great thing. So Irina, if you just copy me and put your hands in your pockets, right? You can cross your leg a bit, like your ankles, your ankle pose. So the pockets is great, and the way Irina's done it is great, because look, if you look at her hands, okay, let me check out your hand, Irina. If you put your hands like this is okay, right? But if she had just put her hands like in an awkward position, like this, it wouldn't look as flattering. So it's good that she actually put her hands like this, because that's quite feminine. If you put it in like this, because then that's more feminine. Obviously with a man, you can't be doing that. If I start, you know, it's just not gonna look good, you know?
Maybe it's better to stay like this, no?
No, not like this, okay? Because people will literally fuss about what they should do with their hands. The best thing to do is to use your pockets, and pockets are amazing because they allow you to have a range to do a whole load of different body languages when shooting to get good photos. It is always important to pose from the bottom up rather than just focus on your face. A lot of us focus on our facial expressions, right? Of course, that has its place and is important, but if your body language isn't right, your photo will fall apart eventually. So to get a good pose with pockets, I would say pose diagonally with your hips back like this with the hands in your pocket. When they do this, it's not putting the elbows wide, but instead putting the elbows back. The key to this is to have them pull up from the base of the spine. So what I mean by that is because sometimes when you're posing, we like get into a certain position and it just looks a bit awkward. But just think of this, like pretend like you're like me, turn to the side like this, right? And just pretend there's a string on the back of your spine and just kind of pull up. Because then it just helps with your posture, if you know what I mean, yeah? Okay, cool. So when you're posing, if you use that, if you always think about that, then your posture is always gonna be better. Because if you don't think about that, you're gonna be more like awkward in certain positions, which you don't want to be.
Maybe I won't.
You don't wanna be posing like this?
Yes.
Nah. Posture, yeah? So when it comes to posing, remember, like I've said in my previous videos, you don't wanna pose like a penguin, right? You don't want your arms to just be like this when you're posing. So when it comes to the ladies, it's always good to have little motions, right? So your hand can be like this, remember? Like this, right? And you just cross over like this, you know? You can have your hands like this to the side, like this, you know? So then your hands are engaged somewhere. You know, some people have their hands like this. Obviously, I can't do this, but you can do a better job than me, right? Not exactly like that, but maybe your hands a bit back. Yeah, because then it looks more, you know, you look more leaner, right? Rather than, because then this just makes you look wide. The key here is to have a slight bend and then roll the shoulders back. This creates a beautiful silhouette, which creates a bit of an S-curve, which is flattering for people. The other thing to remember is that anything experienced at full width like this is literally going to look like a square, which is not something you want in your photos. So it's always better to pose at an axis, at an angle, like I suggested. Remember when I said, instead of being like this, maybe pose at an angle like this, yeah, and then relax, shift the weight. Yeah, so then your posture is much better, you look leaner, you look taller, you look better. For example, I would say it is least best to rotate at an angle diagonally. The way to do this is to shift the weight, angle, or foot and engage your hands. This will result in a nice lean look for your experience when taking photos. However, you will start to realize when taking such photos at an angle, sometimes your body posture can kind of sink. Remember, like I said, the bad posture. So instead, remember, what should you think of the string at the base of your spine? So then your posture is further up, it's like this, right? So, like this, rather than like this. This is just an example of a figure of, like, this is, you don't pose like this, okay? So just think of a string, like I said, you remember? Pull up, so then your posture is better. Another thing to be cautious about when taking photos is your abdominals. So sometimes you may take a photo from the side, right? And you don't want your belly out like this, right? So the way to do it is, I wouldn't say suck it in, because some people go, and it just doesn't look natural. So the way to do it is just to tighten your abdominal, like you're doing crunches at the gym. So you just tighten it. So turn at an angle, and then remember when I taught you this? Remember your hand like this? Yeah. And then you just tighten your abdominal, and then you just pose, So then it's much better than like, now it looks extremely skinny, right? If you like videos like this, don't forget to click the link in my description to have access to my posing guide that will take your photos to the next level. Another problem people have when taking photos is having variations when moving, because sometimes you don't know what to do when you're posing and stuff. So sometimes we just end up standing like this, but then, I would always suggest having little motions to make the pose better. But I would suggest when posing, I wouldn't say, because I've heard some people say, oh, when you're posing, make sure you're like dancing and there's like a whole load of movements. I don't think that's natural. I think little motions are better. So for example, when I'm taking photos for men like this, it's just a little motion, it's not extreme. The way to get around this is to do little motions. So what you can do is face one side and rotate to the camera. And the more you do that, the more relaxed you will feel. Or I would say it takes little steps forwards, so there is a bit of movement with the hips. Sometimes you can do a movement that is creative. For example, you can do extreme motions with your hands that almost look like you are performing in the theater. That looks creative. So the best way to get the best movements is to try one motion and then reset. Try another motion and then reset. So don't try and do multiple things at the same time. Just do one at a time and then you'll get better through trial and error. Another secret to a body language that I will show you is connecting the chin to the shoulder. So this really comes into play when dealing with movement. The way to do this is to get your hips in position, engage your hands. Another trick I love is how to accentuate your curve. So the trick is to bring the arms down, but bend the elbow back to bring out your curves. The last thing I'll suggest when taking photos is to create negative space. And what do I mean by that? So instead of standing like this, like a penguin, putting your hands like this on your waist or your hip, right? It creates negative space. So this creates negative space, but it does make you look better. So now turn at an angle. So like this, Yeah, but yeah. Maybe your hand on your, yeah. And then maybe you can look over there. Right, and then let me see this hand. Yeah, that's perfect. I like it. Straight face, you don't need to smile too much. Just a bit like, yeah, there you go. I like that. So like I said, with creating negative space, I'm sure you've seen these type of poses in magazines where the lady's arm is bent. The reason for this is because it makes her look leaner and it makes her look taller. Look, right now she's taller than me. The important thing is to be aware that with some garments, it is hard to get maximum negative space. So the way to do this is to create triangles to get the best photos that bring out your physique in a good way. The way is to think of different ways you can add negative space to their posing equation to optimize their body language. All right, guys, there you have it. So now you guys know how to pose to look leaner and taller as a woman. So at the end of this video, I'm going to be showing you a summary of all the poses that I spoke about, so then you guys can practice and get better with your photos. If you want more tips on how to pose to get better photos, if you're a woman, if you're a man, please feel free to check out my other videos that I've posted before. And also remember, it's already a no if you don't try,
Esa como es, solo pasto y si janguea, no pa' portarse bien. Pa' la corta, nueva que se antojen. En el cuarto tiene el seteo. Antes de ti yo era ateo. Sé que me chupo hasta los dedos. Baby, dime tú, tan chimbillo con ganas. Conectamos el Bluetooth. Le damos hasta mañana, nega, mero de yao. Que tengo, cuando te me pegas lo siento. No me hables de amor que no hay tiempo. Salimos de aquí, lo hacemos en el beat, no lo siento. Besándote lento. Anoche conspira y también tus amigas, bebé. Prendías incenso, la cámara prendía, es tu disruptiva, bebé. Llegó la disco que estaba en el estudio. Corremos con ropa en mi casa de nuevo. Loco es como un mix, parecemos un dúo. Yo sí me da su tan rica que me ves. Siempre me pides más. Baby, dime tú, tan chimbillo con ganas. Conectamos el Bluetooth. Le damos hasta mañana, nega, mero de yao. Que tengo, cuando te me pegas lo siento. No me hables de amor que no hay tiempo. Salimos de aquí, lo hacemos en el beat, no lo siento. En el VIP pasa chequeando con el beat. Me dijo que una de ellas pilla para eso. Baby, como así, yo con la nota así. Tú tranqui que todo vamos en ascenso. Que el mensaje, muy chistoso lo que escribe tu novio. Toque conmigo y él es matrimonio. El amor es manicomio que peca se mata. Tan rico